we have a problem. Every time I've gone to the track, I have an overheating issue. Do I know what that overheating issue is? No. So let's try and figure something out today. I have a couple things I want to try. Now that we have run seal or ring seal through it, we've ran seafoam through it, it's still having an issue. We're at track after I tuned it a little bit. Granted, I did lean out the fuel mixture before going to the track. It overheated after one lap, and sometimes not even then. So we're going to see about doing a compression leak test. What this is here is a blue fluid that you will put into this dispenser and fill it up to this line here. I'll go into more detail, don't worry. We're gonna put this onto the radiator and see if any of the combustion gases from the cylinder after ignition is going to leak into the coolant. What this will indicate is a blown head gasket. Hopefully not, but it's one of our tests. If this shows to be good, we do have something else to check. The good old compression tester. So we'll see what our compression ratio, or not compression ratio is, but our compression numbers, PSI. Last time I checked them before we went to the track was 85 to 90 PSI dry and 145 to 155 wet, which means just adding a little bit of oil. We're gonna go through all of these today. This is gonna be the agenda, and if one turns out good and one turns out bad, it just depends on how far down the teardown goes. Combustion leak tester, that's a head gasket. Bad compression numbers, that's a full engine rebuild. So let's hope for the the combustion test failing. All right, so first things first, with the combustion tester, you need to make sure that your car is warmed up to full operational temperature. So this way the thermostat is open, and this way your antifreeze is actually flowing all the way through all of your coolant passages, including the ones right next to your cylinder walls. So this way, if you do have a crack in your cylinder or it's bleeding off in your head gasket, then you're going to see everywhere that it's not working. So let's go ahead and get it warmed up. Alright, so now that the car's warmed up, I'm not going to turn it on just right now because it's kind of loud, so it's easier for us to just go ahead and leave it off. But what we're going to do is on this tester that you can get from Napa, AutoZone, whatever, there's a little fluid line. We're going to fill our fluid up to here and then cap it. One thing you want to be sure of is that your radiator is not full. You're going to suck a little bit of the fluid down. It's not going to be that big of a deal. It's just you want to make sure that you're not going to suck coolant into the tester, because if you get the coolant into the testing fluid, it will contaminate it. So we've already drained a little bit of the fluid. I just used a suction device of any kind. You can use a syringe, you can use a turkey baster, you can use whatever you got or you want. So go ahead and toss this guy on there, and this will fit in most radiator caps. There is a adapter, just take your radiator cap and it'll fit into the hole on your radiator. So once it's in there, or if you got good use of all your hands, fill that up. There's a little check valve in there so it's not going to leak out. Up to the line. This way we can also monitor the fluid level. And then this is going to be a suction pump. So as we squeeze this, it's going to pull a vacuum on here, basically pulling any gases out of your radiator up through your fluid, which is going to cause it to bubble up. So as we squeeze this, it's going to bubble. So right now, you guys can see it's blue. If it turns green or yellow, you have a blown head gasket, and what that does is as it detects combustion gases in your coolant system, it will change colors. If it stays blue, your head gasket's good. If it turns green or yellow, it means your head gasket's bad. I'm gonna go start the car up, and we'll go ahead and start pumping. Should have to pump for about 2 minutes or so. I'll cut a little bit, or speed it up. So I don't know if you guys can see it, but there's quite a bit of smoke in here. So after doing the leak down test and revving up the motor to try and get some combustion gases into the radiator, if it's even happening, there's quite a bit of smoke coming out of the exhaust. So that's kind of indicative of our next test that we're going to be doing. Alrighty, so this is after the fact. Hold up the instructions, that might help you see. But as you can see, it might be a little bit different, but not too crazy. So that tells me that it's not a blown head gasket. So what we'll go ahead and check now, we'll go dump this, rinse it out with cold water, and put this away, and then we'll move on to compression checking. Alright, so to do a compression check, we're essentially going to remove and expose the valve cover hole or the spark plug holes. They all need to be exposed, they all need to be pulled out. And what we're going to do is we're going to put a pressure gauge essentially inside of here, and it's going to screw into the spark plug hole, and then we'll get inside the car, we'll push the gas pedal all the way open, so this way the throttle body is open 100%, and then we will crank the car. If you have to, remove the fuel pump relay so you're not pumping fuel into the engine. I can just hit the starter and it won't start because my ignition isn't on. So that won't necessarily work for you, but that's where we're going to go. So I'm going to go ahead and disassemble all of this, take all the coil packs off, take all the spark plugs out, and then we'll get on to compression testing. Alright, so now that we've gotten all of the spark plugs out, we did our compression tester, which is essentially just a gauge and a tube that has the same thread pitch, this side, same thread pitch as your spark plugs. And it's got a little rubber grommet on it that will seal on your head. So what we'll do is screw this side in. We'll start at cylinder 1, and each time you do this, let it stroke over about 4 or 5 times to get a good compression reading. And make sure you're good and tight in there. Not too tight, you don't want to strip it out. It is just brass and aluminum, so it's not going to fight each other. Then this side is just a standard cylinder hose, air compressor hose. So just clip that onto there. And there is a Schrader valve, just like in your bicycle, in the bottom there. And as this fills up with air, it is going to pressurize up this hose and this gauge. as you let off the starter, it will hold the pressure. So you don't need to watch this. It is just nice to see as you go by. So I'll set you guys up in a way that you can watch it as I run the compression, and we'll take a reading and take a record, and we'll record each cylinder, and then we'll see if it has a 15% differential across each one of them, or if they're within that 15%, and make sure it's not too low. Alrighty, so that looks to be about 100 psi in cylinder 1. Ideally, we're up at 150 psi, so we're not off to a good start. So let me go ahead and record that, and then we'll go through all the cylinders. So I was going to go ahead and cut until all the readings were done, but I remembered I had this little trigger system. It hooks up to the positive of the starter and then onto the ignition switch plug. So I can just hold this button, it'll crank the motor, and then I can hold my throttle 100% open here. So we'll be all good there. So I'll just go ahead and do a time lapse. So enjoy. Alright, so there is one more test. We got 100 psi across the board. That is fantastic. It's between 92 and 100 psi. So it's low, but it's even. So either they're all messed up, or just a few of them are messed up. Now, what do we know? We don't have a blunt head gasket. Okay, that's ruled out. We have smoke coming out the exhaust. Alright, we know that now. So now we're down to 3 things it could be. It's leaking out the exhaust valve, intake valve, or through the rings. Those are the only options. So the way to check that is with a leak down tester. I will have to assemble it because I went and bought a bunch of parts to make one. All right, so new day. I haven't done a leak down test, a cylinder leak down test in probably about 15 years. So kind of forgot exactly how to do one. What I didn't take into consideration is that you need a restrictor in line with the pressure regulator to the input to the cylinder. So this way you will see a drop in pressure, but not overly drop in pressure. And this way you're giving it constant air pressure into the cylinder, and whatever your pressure is after the restrictor is how much leak down you have. So if you supply it with 100 psi, and then the gauge on the other side of the restrictor is saying 90 psi, that means you have a 10 psi pressure drop. So I was going to go ahead and make everything that needed, but it costs more to make it and to buy the parts to make it than it would be just to go to Harbor Freight and buy a leak down tester kit. So what we have here is a cylinder leak tester. and we're going to get this hooked up, set up, and we'll go from there. All right. So before we start this test, I have disconnected the silicone coupler, and I have installed a rubber glove here. And this way, if we leak by our intake valves, that glove will blow up. We also put a glove on the tailpipe, so if it leaks past the exhaust valve, as long as it's not just leaking past any exhaust leaks we have. And so we'll pressure up in order to make it easiest. So 6 and 1 are matching, 2 and 5 are matching, and then 3 and 4 are matching on the crank. So what we're going to do is we're just going to follow the firing order. So we're going to test 1, 5, 3, 6, 2, 4. All right. Step 1 is screw in your tester. There's a little rubber seal on here, so it's not going to, you don't have to get it tight. You just have to make sure your O-ring is well lubricated, and this way when you screw it in, it makes a good seal. So now that we have this on here, we have our depth gauge, or is what we're going to call this, in cylinder 6. And we're going to crank over the engine with the car in neutral until this stops going up. We want to make sure that we're on our compression stroke, so we're going to feel for any air pressure compressing up. And as we feel that, we'll know we're on our compression stroke. If you don't feel any pressure coming out of here, your compression is either garbage or you are on your exhaust stroke. So, and we're just going to crank it over by hand. Yep, and as you can hear, yep, we're on the compression stroke. We're going to go until that's all the way to the top. That's good. Best practice, put some chocks under your wheels or pull your handbrake just so your car doesn't try and move. Because as you compress these cylinders up, it's either going, depending on if you're on the stroke side or the upward stroke or downward stroke side of the compression, will determine if your car is going to move forward or backwards when you pressurize up the cylinder. I put it in 5th just to give the drivetrain as much strain as possible before it tries to move the car. If I put it in 1st, it's going to have a buttload of torque and just probably drive right over the chocks, wheel chocks. So my wheel chocks are in place. I'm going to go put it in 5th gear, and then we can pressurize it up. Okay, we're going to hook on our tester here. Good. Hook it up to our air compressor. Okay, we're at 0 PSI right now. We're going to crank it up until we get to 100 PSI. And on this gauge, this will be our supply pressure, and this will be our leak down test. So wherever this ends up is how good our compression is. Or not our compression, our leak down test. So right now, my air compressor is not putting out enough pressure. So, all right, cylinder 1 is 97 PSI. We'll go ahead and write that down and move over to the next one. All right, now we're on cylinder 5. Go ahead and hook up, pressurize it up to 100 PSI. All right, cylinder number 6 is, or cylinder number 5 is 96 PSI. And we're just going to keep going through these and get all the readings, and I will touch back with you guys. And like I said, we're just going to go in the firing order. So 1, 5, 3, 6, 2, 4. All right, so it's not looking good for the RB. Unfortunately, it's got a very long life ahead of it because all of the leak down test numbers came back phenomenal. Out of 100 PSI, the lowest we've seen was 95 across cylinders 3, 4, and 5. And Number 1 and number 6 were 99. Number 2 was 96. Number 2 was 98. So, yeah, we're looking great. And we are going to go ahead and slap this engine back together. I'm going to pull the thermostat out of it. I'm going to pull some of that timing that I talked about from the drift or the track video. Basically, I want to see our timing down below 15, around 15 degrees while high revving and high boost, and make it, I don't care if I lose some power, I'll take it and pick up the, oh, kiddo. I'll take it and pick up the reliability. So we'll go from there. You guys take it easy. Be good, friends.
Success, what they'll call it.